Recording in progress.
Bishamai say about how do we fulfill the mitzvah of the Ner Chanukah. So Yom Rishon Madlik Shmoina. On the first day you light 8 candles. From the first day and on you decrease. Second day 7, third day 6, etc. Till the last day you're only lighting 1. Basil says, the first day we kindle 1 like we do. From now on, from the first day and on, we increase until the final day, we light 8. Time of the Beishamai Kneged Parei Chag. One of the explanations that the Gemara gives about why Beishamai holds that we decrease in the lights is because it corresponds the 8 days of Hanukkah is corresponding to the 8 days or the 7 days of Korbanos during Sukkot. And over there was a total brought of 70 bullocks. It decreased in number day after day after day. So in a similar vein, Beishamai says we also decrease in number in the lights on the 8 days of Hanukkah. The time of the Beis Hillel. And the reason the Beis Hillel says that we increase is because in the Mailim B'Kodesh, when it comes to holiness, we're always supposed to increase and go up. So if yesterday we lit 1, the next day we have to light more. There's known the examination, the analysis of the Alter Rebbe about this. What's the association of all the different mitzvahs that you want to compare Ner Chanukah to? Why specifically do you bring a comparison of Ner Chanukah to the bullocks that were brought in the Beis HaMikdash? Specifically in Sukkot, that was a decreasing order. Especially according to what the Tzemach Tzedek also wrote, Shegam Beis Hillel loy pligi rakim shum the Mailim B'Kodesh. The whole reason that Beis Hillel argues on Beis Shammai is only because they have a stronger reason to overrule that. It's not that they said to Beis Shammai, why are you comparing it to Parei Chag? There's no comparison with them. No, Beis Hillel did not have any trouble with Beis Shammai's comparison to Parei Chag. The only thing is, Beis Hillel said, you know what? There's something more important or that outweighs the idea of the Parei Chag, and that's the idea of Mailim B'Kodesh, which means that's not just Beis Shammai's opinion that there's a comparison between Parei Chag and lighting the Hanukkah lights, but even according to Beis Hillel, there's a comparison, but only because of an overriding reason. That's why we don't do it. What's explained in many places, Shaykh is the Chanukah L'Sukkos. The association between Chanukah and Sukkot is that both of them, they're the only Yom Tovim that are 8 days. So therefore, we have to look to Sukkot to see what exactly we did over 8 days of Sukkot and then learn out from that on Chanukah. And the number 8 is not something trivial. The Misbrash Moida al Bechina Shalom Mishtal Shlos, that the number 8 indicates on a level that's beyond Seder Ishtalshus. So when we have 2 Yom Tovim, that both of them are connected with such a special number of 8, which is higher than Seder Ishtalshus, we need to understand, or we need to associate the two. So, this itself needs explanation. What's the connection, association of Sukkot and Chanukah to a level that's higher than Seder Ishtalshus that because of this, it's 8 days. This is similar to what the Rebbe often says about Gematrias. He says, when it comes to Gematrias, don't try this at home. You can't make up your own Gematrias. Gematrias are a result of a certain association. Because this and that have an association, therefore, their equivalent number is the same. But not just, I'm going to find things that have similar numbers and just put it together. It's the other way around. It works from their similarity. That's why it expresses itself even in the same gematria. Similarly over here, It's not just, well, Sukkot is 8 days, Hanukkah is 8 days, that means they're associated? No. Even though 8 is a number that's higher than the Seder Ishtalshlus, this itself, you need to understand, if you're associating them, there must be some core association, some core connection between Sukkot and Hanukkah, and therefore it expresses itself in the number 8 that's higher than the Seder Ishtalshlus. The Gam, another question. The Hanukkah candles is to commemorate specifically the miracle that took place with the candles of the Beis HaMikdash, that they lit for 8 days instead of 1 day. 1 day. Since in the Beis HaMikdash was 7 candles, so why in Hanukkah is there 8 candles and 8 days? That you're making this association between Hanukkah and Sukkot, that itself needs to be understood. If it's commemorating what took place in the Beis HaMikdash is about 7. Also, we need to understand that Rebbe adds Masha for gleich hashva the Neres Hanukkah, who loy l'chag HaSukkos b'chlal al l'pori hachag davke. We need to understand the comparison and the correspondence between Hanukkah and the candles of Hanukkah is not to the Yom Tov of Sukkot in general, but specifically to the oxen and the bullocks of Sukkot. In other words, this is 8 days. This is 8 days. Find other points of comparison. You pick one aspect of Sukkot, and there you say, this aspect, the Porei HaChag, the oxen, the bullocks, that's what I'm going to compare Hanukkah to. The Lechura, seemingly, the candles of Hanukkah are associated with the menorah. Why? Like we said before, the candles of Hanukkah is because of the miracle that took place with the candles of the menorah. On the other hand, the bullocks, the oxen of Sukkot, it was offered like all the other karbanos upon Mizbeach. The menorah and the Mizbeach are 2 distinct vessels, and therefore, why compare it to something that's done with a totally different type of avodah, totally different type of aspect of the Beis HaMikdash? And then the Rebbe adds in the brackets, especially according to what's explained in Kabbalah and Chassidus, that each one of the kelim in the Beis HaMikdash represents different levels in alakus and godliness. So what the menorah represents and what the mizbech represents are 2 separate things. So since spiritually also they're different, and also the neiros v'karbonis avodas shainis, also the kindling of the neiros and the offering of the karbonis are 2 distinct avodas. They have nothing to do with each other, to such a degree that Aaron was told when he felt bad at the end of Parshas Nosai, that he saw all the heads of the different shvatim bring the karbonis to inaugurate, to mechanech the Mishkan, and he was left out. So Hashem told him immediately afterwards, after Parshas Nosai, Ba'alois Chasaneres, and he comforted Aaron by telling him Va'ad to such a degree, like the Va'ad is the Rebbe's edition, Sheshalach, your job, your avodah, Ba'alois Chasaneres, the Neres is Gedoyla Mishalahem Karbanos Chulu, it's greater than theirs, which is the Karbanos, because Einon Betelim La'olam, because as opposed to the Karbanos, when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, so the physical Karbanos ceased, and the Neres never ceased because of like the Ramban explains, because of the Neres of Hanukkah, so that they always went on, that we always have this commemoration and so on. The Rebbe also adds in the footnote 7 about the difference between the Mizbeach and the menorah, that the Mizbeach, the outer Mizbeach, was in the Azara. The outer Mizbeach upon which they brought the karbonos. We're not talking about the gold mizbeach, the mizbeach haktoros. We're talking about the parei achag. The bullocks of the chag was outside of the ulam, outside of the hole. It was in the azara. Whereas the menorah, that was in the kodesh, in the heichal itself, where the holiest kalim, except for the aron, which was in the kodesh kadoshim, were. So that shows another indication of how they are completely distinct and separate. It's not even compared. We're not even comparing it to something that's in the same location, like the shulchan or the mizbeach haktoros. We're comparing it to the parei achag, which was done outside of the kodesh l'fnei ha'olam. Another question that Rebbe asks 3 lines from the bottom. Also to understand why the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is when the sun goes down. And as our minhag is to light taka immediately after Shkia. The Yidua Hadik Bezel, like it's known, the analysis of this, the Neiris HaMikdash Hitlikum et Plag HaMincha, the Neiris of the base HaMikdash, they lit from the time that's known as Plag HaMincha, which is Shah V'Revia Koydem Ashkia. It's an hour and a quarter of the not the 60-minute hours, but the halachic hours before Shkia. As opposed to Neiris Chanukah is from Shkia and is lit after Shkia. The Kivin Neiris Chanukah in Kanal Ne'al Nes. Shahoy b'Neiris HaMikdash, top of page Kuf Samach Gimel, since the candles of Chanukah are lit because of the miracle that took place with the candles of the Beis HaMikdash. Befrat, especially, there is also a general concept in Chazal and Gemara, called the Tikkun Rabbanon, every mitzvah and every establishment that Chachamim established, Ke'ein D'Oraisa Tikkun. They established it to be similar to the Torah. So therefore, since the Neiris HaMikdash was lit before Shkia, and this is like in commemoration of the miracle that happened with the Neiris of the Beis HaMikdash, it would have been appropriate, seemingly, at the time of their kindling, should have been done like the candles of the Beis HaMikdash. Why is the mitzvah dafkim from when the sun goes down? The point of explanation this is the idea of the candles of Chanukah is to illuminate the darkness. That's the point behind it. When did the miracle of Chanukah take place? After the Greeks entered the Beis HaMikdash and they defiled all the oils in the Beis HaMikdash. The overpowering of the darkness of the Greeks was to such a degree, not only did they enter into the Heichel, and they defiled the Heichel, they also defiled all the oils that were in the Heichel. And this has special significance according to Chassidus, that the oil of the Heichel is even higher than the Heichel itself. The Shemen hu b'chinas kodesh. The oil is the level of sanctity. Shemen mishchas kodesh. The oil of the holy anointment. And kodesh is milah b'garmei. The word kodesh, as opposed to kadosh, is a separate word. Kadosh describes something else. Maybe in English it's called an adjective. We say this is kadosh, the person is a kadosh, etc. So it's already connected with something else. Kodesh is something that stands on its own. It's a word that stands independent of any other words. Milah b'garmei, it's its own separate word, which indicates the idea of being a level of holiness higher than kadosh. So this also emphasized the vav in the letter kadosh, as opposed to kodesh, which doesn't have to be written with a vav, is showing an amshacha, coming down. So kadosh is already holiness that applies and comes down to something. Kodesh is holiness itself, which is beyond. And this is similar to the oil itself, he says in the parentheses. It's similar to oil that floats upon all liquids. It doesn't become mixed with them, which is indicative of this idea of kodesh. The Mizem move on from this is understood. The fact that the Yevonim defiled all the oils that were in the Heichol, in this component, in this aspect, it's more, it matters more, it's more crucial than even the fact that he defiled the Heichol, which is really a shocker, because Av Shekdush Sahechol he dargen Nilis Bishar Beser Kedoshis, though the holiness of the Heichol is a very high level in the 10 levels of sanctity that the Chazal enumerate. There's Eretz Yisrael, and there's Yerushalayim, and there's the Harabayis, etc., etc. So the Heichel is like almost the highest. The Kodesh HaKadoshim is the highest, Ma'aron is the highest, etc. How do we see this? Even after your children came, they already purified the Beis HaMikdash. So that still wasn't enough, because there was still something worse left that they had to take care of, the Shemen. In the B'chdesh, to be able to kindle the menorah, they needed specifically a miracle. Maskel, mehanes, shematzu, pach, echad, shemen, toher, chasam, echesam, shokain gadol. Beginning from the very miracle that they found the cruse of oil that was pure and sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, which that find itself was a miracle, which according to one explanation is the reason why we celebrate 8 days of miracles. Seemingly the first day there was no miracle. The first day was just natural for the oil to burn for 1 day. But the first day, according to one explanation, is we're celebrating the fact that the oil was found. And this indicates that it was sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, as we mentioned also in the previous Maimer, the infinite light of Hashem, as beyond Seder Ishtalshlos, that's a level of Kohen Gadol. When we talk about this type of light, Gam Choshech Lo Yachshech, darkness cannot darken that light. It's not even, it doesn't even engage with the darkness. Va'adrab, even more so, this light illuminates the darkness, meaning it doesn't just shine and push away the darkness, but it transforms. That also the darkness should shine, and that's what's hinted in the pasuk v'havaya. But Tosefes vav, when he says v'havaya with an additional vav, that means a level that's beyond Seder Ishtalshlos. Yagia Choshki will make the darkness itself light. This is the explanation for why the Ner Chanukah is specifically at sundown. That's the reason why the Chanukah candles mitzvah is when the sun goes down specifically. The idea of the candles of Chanukah is to illuminate the darkness. This is also the reason why the Chanukah candles are specifically 8. And not only the candles are 8, and so too the days of Chanukah are also 8 days, because, again, we wanted to understand, we were mentioning before that the number 8 is higher than Seder Ishtalshlos. We just don't understand yet what that very same level has to do with Sukkot and Parei HaChag. But first we're explaining the higher than Seder Ishtalshlos having to do with the number 8 of Chanukah. The number 8, as we mentioned yesterday in the previous Ois, in Ois Aleph, and the level it's higher than Seder Ishtalshlos. Because only when you're dealing with a level, but a light that's higher than Seder Ishtalshlos, it's possible to illuminate the darkness, meaning making the darkness itself shine. top of page Kuf Samach Daled, is Gimel. To explain this matter in the service of a person to Hashem. This will be understood by prefacing what's explained in the Mamorim of the Rebbe's father-in-law of the Frierdiker Rebbe. What was the reason that the Yevonim defiled the oils in the Heichel? What was the purpose? What was the goal? What were they interested in? Because their entire war was a spiritual war. Their purpose, they were not out to attack the bodies of Yidden, which is the difference. It's always brought down between Hanukkah and Purim, that Purim was about killing the Jews physically, and Hanukkah was about a spiritual war. Their main will was to make them forget your Torah and to remove them from the statutes of your will. And even in this itself, the fact that they were fighting against Torah mitzvahs, their main war was against the spirituality and godliness of Torah mitzvahs, as similar to what we had in the Maimer about Shalom Rav Le'aviser Secha, the idea of loving your Torah, not just love of Torah, because then should have said study of Torah. In footnote 31, he brings a very interesting thing. Let's actually see the footnote inside. Let's go to the bottom of the page, footnote 31. Lahoyer gam me'amisuper medrash Chazal, 14. To note also from what's related in the medrash of Chazal, she'amru, that the Yevonim told the Yidden, kisvu lachem, write on the horn of an ox, you have no part in the God of Yisrael. The emphasis was about the going against godliness. So now the Rebbe is going to ask a question from the Rambam. When we look in the Rambam, we see there was not just the godliness of Torah mitzvahs. We see actually that the Rambam indicates that they also actually stopped them from doing Torah mitzvahs. There's no contradiction to this from what the Rambam writes at the beginning of the halachos of Chanukah. They stopped their religion, and they do not allow the Yidden to be involved in Torah mitzvahs. So here it's not about the godliness, it's about actually learning Torah and performing mitzvahs. Like it's known from the scroll of Antiochus that they made decrees outlawing performing bris milah, outlawing the celebration of Rosh Chodesh, outlawing the keeping of Shabbos. So how does this fit in what the Rebbe said in the Maimer, that they were stopping them from doing from the spirituality of the mitzvahs, not from the mitzvah itself? So the Rebbe says two ways. One way is the Eshloi Marshas Cholos V'ikar Machama Ha'is Lashkicham Torah Secha Ulaviram Chukir Tzanecha. Their initial, in the beginning, war was to make them forget your Torah and to remove them from the statutes of your will. But once that, whatever, either didn't take, whatever it was, after that, from this came about afterwards, the decrees against actually performing mitzvahs. Say the Rambam, like the order, the expression of the Rambam, Botlu Dosam. First, they stopped their religion, meaning their awareness of Hashem. Afterwards, it didn't allow them to be involved in Torah mitzvahs in actuality. Then the Rebbe flips it around. Or perhaps we could answer, maybe concerning actual time, the order was the opposite. From the lighter to the most difficult. The Tchila Gazru al Torah Mitzvah Poil, initially they made a decree not to perform Torah Mitzvahs in actuality. And afterwards a more difficult decree against the religion itself. The Rambam says first Basel Dasam because that was their intention. They wanted to stop them from the godliness of the Torah.